Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to something really specific, the whole life cycle of a single distressed property rehab.
Right.
We're not talking broad trends here. This is the real nuts and bolts, using the actual project log from Flowers and Associates LLC for a house right here in Memphis.
Exactly. And the mission today for you listening is really practical. We want to unpack the strategy, the blueprint, really, for turning a property that's a liability into a genuine asset.
Mm-hmm.
We're tracking this one house, 187 W. McKeller, and watching how it goes from this, forgotten, overgrown place to a valuable home.
Yeah.
This documentation is kind of a masterclass in prioritizing, shows exactly where the effort and the money had to go first in a pretty rapid, full-scale renovation.
And this property is such a classic example, isn't it? A 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home. Pretty standard.
Standard size, yeah, standard potential, but wow, a huge challenge up front.
Totally. The goal ultimately is bringing it back to life, making it updated, safe, ready for maybe a first-time homeowner or, an investor looking for solid rental income.
A resurrection, like you said.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. Before we jump into the actual work, the stabilization blitz, we need to get a clear picture of what they were starting with.
Definitely.
Let's dive into, the anatomy of neglect here. What did 187 W. McKellar actually look like right before the hammers started swinging? And what were the, financial implications of that condition?
Well, the initial picture, it's one of pretty deep abandonment. And that's crucial because neglect, it equals liability, right? It's not just about how it looks.
Right.
Externally, the front yard was just completely overrun. The sources describe dense weeds, wild vines literally choking the walkway, climbing all over the front of the house.
And that kind of dense growth, it does more than just look bad, doesn't it? It holds moisture, attracts pests.
Exactly.
And it can hide serious problems, right at the foundation.
It absolutely can.
The whole place just looked tired, dated.
Hmm.
But the details mention the weathered awning, the siding showing its age, maybe some damage.
Yeah, and the sheer amount of vegetation actually blocking the path to the front door. That tells you something.
Definitely.
When you see plants touching the siding or getting near the roof line, you're looking at accelerated decay, water intrusion, rot.
And you mentioned a small detail from the sources that really grounds it. The city of Memphis garbage bin still sitting out front.
Yeah, that little detail, it's kind of poignant, isn't it? Shows it wasn't just empty, it was truly forgotten. Maybe for years.
So if the neglect is that bad, how do they even justify the investment? Is there really room for profit, or is it just too far gone?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or, well, maybe not a million in this case, but you get the idea. The property clearly needed substantial work, no question.
Right.
But they spotted what we call solid potential, good bones. Underneath the mess, the basic structure was sound. And it had these original elements worth saving. The simple gable roof line, some of that vintage trim, the metal porch railings, things that give it character.
So it wasn't a total teardown candidate.
No, not at all. And what's fascinating here is understanding that difference between, cosmetic cleanup and real structural necessity. The financial play depends entirely on fixing those big-ticket liabilities, the roof, maybe hidden water damage, while preserving that core structure.
Okay, so challenge established. House is choked by weeds, looks rough, but it's fundamentally okay underneath. So where on earth do you begin with something like that? Seems overwhelming.
You start with rapid risk mitigation. That seems to be the strategy here. When the project kicked off in July 2025, the clear goal was stop the bleeding.
Right.
Stabilize the outside and the utilities first.
Things that could cause catastrophic failure or, big insurance headaches down the line.
Precisely.
And the log shows they didn't mess around. First entry, July 15th. Lawn cut and debris removal, basic site management.
Absolutely essential first step. You need safe access. You need to actually see what you're dealing with. Can't assess damage properly when it's hidden under a jungle.
Right.
But what's interesting is how fast they moved inside. The very next day, July 16th, the log shows bath floor tear out.
Okay. Why jump straight to the bathroom floor? Not the living room, not even the roof yet.
Well, it looks like strategic grouping. Bathrooms are, notorious high moisture areas.
That's true. Leaks, humidity.
Right. So tearing out that floor immediately lets them check the subfloor, the joist underneath for any water damage, rot, mold. It isolates a high-risk zone really early. Kind of a rapid initial got to get the hazards out before tackling the big stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of big stuff, the log then jumps pretty quickly to those critical structural things. By July 20th, we see plumbing pipes exposed for repair.
Yep.
And then, boom, July 21st, the very next day, roofing takeoff and repair. That seems like a major job, right on the heels of the plumbing work.
It does. And doing those almost back-to-back plumbing exposure than a full roofing job, it tells you something about their priorities in managing costs.
Like what?
Like getting a dry, secure envelope is paramount. Maybe exposing the plumbing first made sense if they suspected leaks contributing to roof issues. Or maybe it was just easier access before the roofing chaos started. But tackling the roof itself immediately after shows it was the top structural priority. Stop water getting in.
And the documentation here is specific, isn't it? It mentions tearing out and removing dry rotted wood. That's not just replacing a few shingles.
Oh, absolutely not. That's a huge distinction. Dry rot means the actual wood structure, the decking supports, the fascia, rafters, maybe has failed because of long-term moisture.
So a much bigger deal.
Much bigger. Removing it is critical to stop the rot spreading and, frankly, to prevent the roof from potentially collapsing later. It definitely shifts this from a quick cosmetic flip to a deep structural rehab. That impacts everything: cost, timeline, future insurability, lending.
Wow, okay. So they're tackling plumbing, fixing major structural rot in the roof. That's generating a ton of debris, right?
You bet. Old roofing materials, rotted wood, the stuff in the bathroom tear out.
And the log reflects that. We see dumpster delivery on July 24th,
Necessary logistics.
followed by a big clean out and cleanup on July 25th.
That sequence shows really efficient site management.
Mhm.
You can't work safely or effectively in a mess. They're clearing debris almost as fast as they created to keep the project moving. Velocity is key.
Right. And then, wrapping up this first intensive phase, just before the end of July, on the 27th, there's another entry: flooring tear-out repair. This sounds different from the bathroom one earlier.
Yeah, that sounds like tackling the main living areas. Taking out old, maybe damaged flooring. The repair part suggests they might be fixing subfloor issues as they go, getting everything prepped for new flooring later.
So, in basically 2 weeks,
Pretty much.
they went from this overgrown, abandoned liability to having the major structural issues addressed. Plumbing checked, roof secured, and the interior partially gutted and clean. That's intense.
It is. Intense, focused effort. They stabilize the essential structure incredibly quickly. Phase 1, complete. Secure the envelope, remove immediate hazards.
That speed, especially focused on the structure, really highlights their risk management strategy.
Right.
Okay, so now we shift gears into phase 2. The documentation jumps to late August 2025.
Right.
And the focus changes dramatically, doesn't it? From tearing down and stabilizing to actually rebuilding the exterior shell. This is where it starts looking like a house again.
Exactly. Phase 2 is all about achieving weather tightness.
Yeah.
This is a huge milestone in any build or rehab, especially for an investor.
Why? Especially for an investor.
Because once that exterior shell is tight roof on, siding on, doors and windows in, you've protected your structural investment. Now you can work on the inside without worrying about rain, snow, whatever. It also drastically reduces risks like vandalism or further weather damage.
Makes sense. So the log shows 2 big items happening on the same day, August 29th. Installing siding
The new skin of the house.
and doors installation. Why tackle those two together? Seems like a busy day.
Well, they're functionally linked. When you're putting up siding, which is your main weather barrier on the walls, you have to properly flash and seal around every opening doors, windows.
Okay.
Doing the doors at the same time as the siding ensures you get that continuous seal, that proper integration. It's just good construction practice. Get the bones right, get the shell secure and weatherproof before you start spending money on the interior finishes.
The stuff the eventual buyer or renter sees first, like kitchens and baths.
Right. This shows that investor path. Secure the asset first, make it sound, then worry about the cosmetics.
So looking at this whole process, this detailed tracking, what does it really tell someone who's interested in this side of real estate?
I think the biggest takeaway is that a successful rehab, especially on a distressed property, isn't just about, swinging hammers and picking paint colors. It's about intense, really prioritized financial and physical effort. There's a clear sequence. Start outside, clean up, fix the absolute catastrophic failure points. First the roof rot, the plumbing issues, then move methodically to get that exterior shell secure and weather-tight siding, doors.
And the speed we saw in phase 1.
That speed is strategic. Every day that house sits unrepaired, the investor is carrying costs, interest, taxes, insurance on an asset that's not generating income. Hmm. So moving fast, especially in those critical stabilization steps, minimizes that financial drag. And, this brings up a final thought, maybe something for you listeners to reflect on. Think about how this kind of detailed documentation like the phase log we just walked through does more than just track the project.
Yeah.
Well, when this house eventually goes on the market or is listed for rent, having proof of the type of work done, the new roof, the dry rot removal, the plumbing repairs, the new siding, the transparency demonstrates serious value. It's not just newly updated, it's structurally sound, major systems addressed.
Right. It shows the quality goes deeper than the surface.
Exactly. So how does that proof of work, that transparency, affect the marketability? How does it affect the perceived value compared to a flip where maybe corners were cut?
Mm.
I'd argue that documented quality is almost as valuable as the granite countertops everyone expects.
That makes a lot of sense. Transparency builds trust, and trust definitely helps sell or rent a property faster, probably for a better price, too.
Absolutely.
For those interested in the thinking behind projects like this, that mix of solid real estate investment, but also making a real impact in the community, especially around housing.
Yeah.
We've actually talked quite a bit with Robert Flowers on this show before. He's the founder of Flowers and Associates Property Rentals, the company that did this rehab.
Ah, right. I remember those discussions.
Yeah, we've covered topics with him like special needs housing and his approach to real estate investing generally. He has a really interesting perspective.
He does. Very community focused.
And he actually wrote a book about it called The Joy of Helping Others Through Special Needs Housing.
That's right.
You can find out more about the book, its availability, and kind of the whole mission driving these projects over at passiveimpact.net. That's passiveimpact.net.
Good resource.
And just to add, if you happen to own a distressed property yourself that maybe you're thinking of selling, or if you're just interested in learning more about their approach to real estate investing, you can actually contact the company directly.
Oh.
Yeah, the number is 901-621-3544. Again, that's 901-621-3544. Might be useful for some listeners.
It's good information to have.
Definitely. Well, hopefully this deep dive gave you a much clearer picture of that road from, serious neglect all the way to a valuable asset. It's quite a journey.
It really is. Shows the effort involved.
Absolutely. Thanks for walking us through it. And thank you for listening. Until next time, keep learning.